All right. And done. Oh, hey there. I didn't see you. I was just doing some upgrades on old Bess here. I'm done for the day, so why don't we get down to some story time? All right. Okay. All right, so this is a little bit better. Hi, everyone. My name is Israel Garza, and I work for Houston Community College. More specifically, I work inside of a makerspace inside of Houston Community College called the IDEAStudio. You can kind of see this is on my shirt here right now. So what is a makerspace? Makerspace is a place where there are a bunch of tools gathered together in one area that people can use to make things. And so what I'd like to do right now is read you the story of Iggy Peck Architect, and then afterwards I'd like to show you a couple of things that can be made inside of a makerspace. So let's get started. So before I get started, I'm going to put on some rubber gloves because that's what any good maker would do before reading a story about architecture. That's not true. I just think it's funny to put on gloves. Okay, here we go. This is Iggy Peck Architect by Andrea Beatie, illustrated by David Roberts, read by Israel Garza. Young Iggy Peck is an architect and has been since he was 2, when he built a great tower in only an hour with nothing but diapers and glue. "Good gracious, Ignatius," his mother exclaimed. "That's the coolest thing I've ever seen." But her smile faded fast as a light wind blew past and realized those diapers weren't clean. "Ignatius, my son, what on earth have you done? That's disgusting and nasty. It stinks." But Iggy was gone. He was out on the lawn using dirt clods to build a great sphinx. When Iggy was 3, his parents could see his unusual passion would stay. He built churches and chapels from peaches and apples and temples from modeling clay. At dinner one night, to his father's delight, Iggy got a bright gleam in his eye. And out on the porch, he built the St. Louis Arch from pancakes and coconut pie. Dear Ig had made it until 2nd grade when his teacher was Miss Lilla Greer. On the very first day, she had this to say, "We do not talk of buildings it here. Gothic or Romanesque, I couldn't care less about buildings ancient or new," she said in her lecture about architecture that it had no place in grade 2. That might seem severe, but she was sincere. For when she was no more than 7, she had a great fright from a dizzying height in a building so tall it scraped heaven. On an architect's tour of the 95th floor, young Lilla got lost from the group. She was found 2 days later, stuck in an elevator, eating cheese with a French circus troupe. After that day, it's quite safe to say, she thought all building lovers were nuts. As a teacher, she taught that above all, one ought to avoid them. No ifs, ands, or buts. As you might guess, it would cause Iggy stress to hear such terrible talk. But he didn't hear. He sat in the rear while building a castle of chalk. "You, Iggy Peck, your desk is a wreck. Tear down that castle right now. You will not build in here. Is that perfectly clear? Do you need to see Principal Howe?" "No, ma'am," Iggy said. He lowered his head. His heart sank down to the floor. With no chance to build, his interest was killed. Now 2nd grade was a bore. After 12 long days that passed in a haze of reading, writing, and arithmetic, Miss Greer took the class to Blue River Pass for a hike and an old-fashioned picnic. They crossed an old trestle to a small island nestled in the heart of a burbling stream. But they no sooner passed than the footbridge collapsed and Miss Lilla Greer started to scream. "We're trapped here, oh my! Alas, kids, goodbye!" Her eyeballs rolled back in her head. She dropped to the ground with a vague groaning sound. Luckily fainted, not dead. The class was amazed. They stood there quite dazed, uncertain of what they should do. But one bright young man was off hatching a plan, which started with Miss Lilla's shoe. Soon each lad and lass there at Blue River Pass was working together as one. And when she came to, Miss Lilla Greer knew that something quite brave had been done. She looked in the air and saw hanging there a structure with cables and braces. And on the far side, beaming with pride, were 17 smiling young faces. Boots, tree roots, and strings, fruit roll-ups and things, some of which one should not mention, were stretched ridge to ridge in a glorious bridge dangling from shoestring suspension. It all became clear to Miss Lilla Greer as she crossed that bridge over the stream. There are worse things to do when you're in grade 2 than to spend your time building a dream. Now, every week at Blue River Creek, elementary in 2nd grade, all the school kids can hear, along with Miss Greer, how the world's greatest buildings were made. The weekly guest speaker, in t-shirt and sneakers, talks of buildings from Rome to Quebec. Of course, he's the guy who builds towers from pie, that brilliant young man, Iggy Peck. Well, that was a wonderful story. I can't wait to see all the things that Iggy makes as he grows up. All right, so as promised earlier, I'd like to show you a few of the things that can be made inside of a makerspace. So the makerspace, like I said, is a place where there's a bunch of different kind of tools. There are all the kinds of tools you could possibly think of, I think. Most of the things you normally would think of, like a hammer or a saw or nails or screws. We have all of those kinds of things, but we also have some interesting pieces of technology. One piece of equipment you might have heard of is called a 3D printer. And some of these things here were made on a 3D printer. So let's take a look at a few. So this is just a set of gears. You can kind of see what it looks like here, that they're all assembled. These were not made in the normal way that you would make them. They were just printed right on a 3D printer. Let's look at another thing here. This is a little tic-tac-toe set here. It's a box. You can kind of hear the pieces rattling in here, and this is the tic-tac-toe board. So what you do is you just pull out this little drawer, and you've got all the different pieces that you can play tic-tac-toe with. So you can set them down, and you and a friend can play a game with each other. Oops, this person lost, or this person won. I'm playing against myself. So that is a tic-tac-toe board. Let's see what else that we have here. We also have something here. This is a boat, and this looks like it was printed with multiple colors. We have red and yellow, all the different colors of a rainbow. So that is a boat that was 3D printed. Let's bring it up a little bit closer so you can see. Speaking of multiple colors, here is an octopus that was created using 3D printing. You can kind of see, if you look real close, the different colors. It's hard to see the different layer lines, but this was made with a 3D printer. And so what a 3D printer does is it takes some plastic and melts it and then lays down a bunch of individual layers, until the part is slowly built up into a three-dimensional part. All right, so this piece is kind of interesting. This piece was made in two different parts. This is a puzzle. You can see that the silver is made of metal and the black part is made of plastic, and they were made with two different pieces of equipment. The black piece was made with 3D printing and the metal piece was made out of a CNC mill. And I don't know that I'm going to be able to get this back together now. Hey, all right. So it combines into one cube here, and it fits perfectly. So you can kind of see, again, the silver piece is made out of aluminum, and the black piece is made out of plastic that was 3D printed. And I'm going to leave it alone. All right, so there's one more piece that has gears. This is just a little sample of what can be made with gears. You can see it's just, this kind of winds up. You click this up, and it winds up this spring here. And then once you let it go, it runs the gears. And so every single bit of this assembly was 3D printed. Now we have another kind of tool that can make some pretty cool things, and that's our laser cutter. So let me show you some of the things that the laser cutter can make. Now this is a glass that the laser cutter can't make the glass, but it can etch into the glass. So you can kind of see that we just put the words onto the side of the glass with our laser cutter. So that's one of the cool things it can do. Another thing that was made with a laser cutter is this right here. And so you can kind of see every bit of this was made inside of our makerspace. This is, you can kind of see the individual layers of plastic that were cut individually and then stacked and glued. And then here's some LED light strips, and then here's just a piece of clear acrylic that we etched a design into. And so this just fits inside of here. And if I turn it on, I have this remote here. If I turn it on, you can see that it lights up, which is pretty amazing. So the light shines up through the bottom of the acrylic, and it escapes out of the etched areas and the sides as well. So you can kind of just see it's just normal acrylic, but as soon as you insert it, it lights up quite a bit. And so here's another thing that we can put in there. That's the city of Houston there. See what that looks like. And so again, this was just done with the laser cutter. It looks really, really, really cool. Well, all right, that was a lot of fun. If you liked Iggy Peck Architect and you would like to check out more stories like these, check out your Harris County Public Library. My name is Israel Garza, and thank you for joining me.